So with these cottage or seasonal properties, is there other things that people should be considering or think about, just because, like you mentioned a couple of times, how those policies are often different? Is there things that they should make sure or try to, if they can, have on those policies that maybe not all insurance companies might offer?
Like, I go back to the guaranteed replacement cost.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if I was building a brand new place with you guys, I would make sure I had guaranteed replacement cost. The main thing is the values. You're going to want to make sure that your values are there, and you're getting the best amount of coverage for a reasonable price. Aside from that, I mean, any newer property is going to have replacement cost on it, so you're not going to have to worry about that. Older properties, some companies may only offer actual cash value. And if you only have actual cash value, then what your value is on the property is even more important, because you're very limited to what you could get paid. But you're going to want to make sure that you don't just say, add this property to my policy, to my home policy, because maybe that's not the best market for you. Maybe get some quotes from your broker and say, like, I'm interested in making sure I'm covered properly.
I didn't realize that was a thing people do. Like, is that a thing where they add their cottage property to their home policy?
Yeah, often that's what happens, because not every insurance company will write a seasonal, like what's called a standalone seasonal.
Oh, okay.
They'll say, we'll only write your seasonal if we write your home. Or, they got to go together. They don't have to be on the same policy, but they have to be with the same company.
Okay, but at the very least, you'd want to make sure that it has its own policy, ideally.
That doesn't matter.
Okay.
But you want to make sure that you're not just assuming that the best place for it is with your home policy. You want to look and see what your options are.
Yeah.
There are, that we deal with 4 or 5 different markets that will write standalone seasonals.
Okay.
So, and some of them have better options. So you're going to want to just not say, hey, I'm dealing with this company, just put it on my policy, and not worry about what the coverage is.
Yeah.
Have a conversation and make sure that it makes the most sense to add it onto that policy.
Yeah, perfect. One thing you mentioned earlier that I thought was interesting, I never heard of before, was the concept of, I don't know what you called it, but it was like your contents have this value, your structure has this value, and maybe being able to use some of the value from your contents if you don't use it in the structure. Is that like a specific rider or add-on that you get to your policy, or?
So generally it comes along with guaranteed replacement cost. If you qualify for guaranteed replacement cost, you get what's called single limit. And that's where you can group those numbers together to have one higher limit.
That's got to be hugely beneficial, because a lot of times, like when you've owned a place for a long time, you have a lot of stuff that you're just probably not going to replace. You just might not. You don't need it anymore, right?
And in partial loss situations, it can be big too. If you just lost your garage and you don't have enough coverage for your detached structures, you can borrow from your other limits to help pay for that. So it can come into play for sure.
Yeah. But would that be something that people would have to ask for they would have to double check to make sure they had it if they wanted it?
You would have to ask. You can't add it on its own. So they don't just, insurance companies include it with, if you qualify for guaranteed replacement costs, you qualify for single limit.
So that's automatic if you have the guaranteed replacement?
Yeah.
Okay.
With probably every company.
Okay.
I'm not going to say 100%, but
yeah.
There may be some limitations, and some of them structure the single limit a little bit differently, but it still works the same, generally the same.
Yeah. With the bylaw upgrade, is that something that people need to specifically make sure they have on their policy, or is that kind of like, does that fall under something else?
That's something that your broker should be offering. Like I said, on homeowners policies, almost all companies include roughly $30,000 automatically, but you can increase that. And again, depending on the age of your property, that determines how much coverage you may need. I would say most clients don't realize that that's available or realize that that's a problem. And that's where your broker needs to know what they're doing or be advising you on what coverages you need. If you're not sure, if you've never had that conversation, then call your broker and say, do I have bylaws coverage on my policy, or how much bylaws coverage do I have on my policy?
Yeah.
But once you're, I mean, for sure past 1990, like earlier than 1990, you need to
there's gonna be
have
something,
you
yeah.
need to have bylaws coverage. And if you're in the 50s, 60s, like you're going to need a lot.
Yeah. So to recap the proactive approach, if hopefully you're in a situation where you haven't lost something to a fire, the key things you want to do is, number one, make sure that you have enough value on your property, and you can do that. If you can't figure that out, your broker can help you. Any builder could help you. Just reach out just to get even if you have an idea of cost per square footages, at least make sure you're in the ballpark. The second thing would be guaranteed replacement value. If you can get it, you should definitely try to get that, because that'll cover you in case anything changes between now and when, hopefully never, but if you do have to make a claim. Along with that is going to come the single limit coverage, which means you can maybe use some of the value that was part of your belongings and use that towards the structure. The next thing, which is I think a great point that Ryan made earlier, was to just go around your property and video and photograph everything. You know, pictures worth 1,000 words, and having exterior pictures, interior pictures, video walkthroughs, you know, that's going to help you, number one, figure out and remember all the contents you had. And then number two, anyone that has to quote building replacement, it just is so valuable for us to come in and see all those pictures and videos after. The fourth thing is the bylaws coverage. So that again helps you get coverage for things that are different with the building codes now compared to whenever your project was built. And then the fifth thing is making sure any high value items you have are on their own schedule in your policy, to make sure that you're going to get the true value for something, you know, whether it's just important or whether it's just a high value item, that it doesn't just get lumped in with everything else at a potentially lower value than you deserve.
If you're in a situation where you've been evacuated or you might be evacuated, I'd just like to say, first of all, leave. If you've been told to leave, just leave. Contact your insurance company as soon as possible. Most policies include around $2,500 in evacuation costs. They'll just pay that out as a lump sum to you. If you've had a loss, make a list of what you've had, what upgrades you've done to the property. Go through room by room. Living room had a TV, couch, dining room table. Try and be as accurate as possible. You also want to contact your insurance company or your broker and report the claim. Generally, your broker will handle the call Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. After hours, your insurance company will have phone lines available. You also want to make sure that you're advocating for yourself. If you're having problems with the claim and you're maybe losing contact with the insurance company or the adjuster, you're not agreeing with things on, contact your broker. That's what we're here for. We can help guide you through the process. We can help talk to the adjuster and the insurance company for you, and hopefully make things go a little smoother. Claims are the worst, whether you have coverage or not, but having the right amount of coverage, having your broker on your side, and having as much information as possible will help make it a little bit easier.
Yeah, perfect. Great. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.